listening to The Starting Zone, a podcast about World of Warcraft and the people who play it. And now, here are your hosts.
Well, hello and welcome to The Starting Zone, the podcast about World of Warcraft and people who play it. Today is November 23rd, 2025, and my name is Spencer Downey. Thank you so much for listening and subscribing to the podcast. I am joined today, as always, by my co-host, Jason Lucas. Jason, how are you doing? Welcome back on this fine Sunday.
Oh, Spencer, hello. Thank you. Yes, it is November 23rd, which means today is the literal 21st anniversary of WoW launch in North America. So, wow, that really takes me back. I can remember that day well. 21 years on, but I'm doing well. I'm a little wiped out. Yeah. I had a great vacation, but it was also a lot of traveling and a lot of, doing stuff. My sleep schedule is shot. So, yeah, I had very little time to play. I haven't played WoW very much at all since last we spoke, but, it felt nice to get out of that routine a little bit. And obviously, I'm not lamenting the fact that I didn't get to play because it's a slow time for the game anyway. What was I really even missing? But then then it becomes a little weird or intimidating to try to get back into a routine. It's like, okay, where do I get back into this? What do I start doing? And I've been home for a couple days now, and the answer's kind of been like, I'm just gonna wait for reset, and we'll raid and start getting into stuff at that point. And it's kind of a more natural kind of schedule.
Yeah, I mean, there's enough events happening right now that you might have been like, well, I want to log in and at least check in on, anniversary event, and Pilgrim's Bounty kicks off today, and there's a bunch of other things happening. So like, you might have been like, hey, before Tuesday, what do I want to get done? But otherwise, I can get waiting till next raid week to sort of get a fresh start on things.
Yeah, and anniversary, it went up last Sunday, I guess.
Yeah.
And, last year was like probably the best anniversary event ever. And I had the thought, like, they're not even going to attempt to top this. Like, they're building this for the future. Like, this is incredible. And it's also, they're going to just lean on this for years to come because there's so much stuff to collect. Yeah. And, this year is maybe the worst anniversary event we've had. Like, I don't mean to, like, bury the devs or whatever, but it's like there is really nothing new, and the new reward is a Mog set that, on the bright side, you can just go buy with Time Warp badges, and and it's not very expensive, so you're even kicking around, you can just go buy it. It's kind of hideous, and I can't imagine ever wanting to use it, but I went and bought it because it's the new thing to buy.
Sure. There was a new title too. There was a new title you could buy too.
Oh, yeah, true. I miss the days of getting the in-game mail with the celebration package and the pet or whatever, whatever the gift would be for the year for logging in or whatever.
Yeah.
Nothing like that this year. But, I went pretty hard with the anniversary event last year, and I think I got like everything pretty much that was on offer. Or certainly everything I cared about. I got all the tier 2 sets and all that stuff. So there's not a lot that's kind of demanding my time and attention for this round, but the cool thing is if you missed it entirely, or if you didn't get everything that you wanted or whatever, I mean, having another opportunity to get a bunch of that stuff is great because they added so much cool stuff last year. That's kind of what I mean about it being like built to last, right? This was a revamp of the whole concept of the in-game anniversary, and it's like, here you go, do it at your own pace. It'll be back around next year, whatever, get the stuff that you want.
Yeah, it was tricky, right? Because I remember there being a lot of tension last year around what is one time and what isn't. There was a lot of stuff that was at the anniversary event that we were worried this was like our one opportunity to get these things, and it wasn't going to be around again, and we weren't sure, and the devs weren't sure, the devs weren't sharing info, and it was like no one was really certain about some of these things until much, much later into the anniversary event when some of those things started to become more firm. So yeah, it is really nice to see that coming around, but I'm also not surprised if the initial design intent, even though it wasn't shared with us, was, hey, we're not going to be adding a lot to this for the next 5 years or whatever it is. So we want to be sure that, there's a lot to do. And then they release that, but they don't communicate that this is like, hey, this is like 5 anniversary events worth of content and collecting and whatever it is. Because I'm with you. Like, I was putting probably, 20 hours a week or whatever it is, an anniversary event. This now is, not nearly as much of a big year for anniversary stuff. Like I've definitely been down there this past week. I was doing I did the Transmog competition. I did the Mount Mania that was going on there. I've done the killing the world bosses, trivia questions. I was getting my anniversary event buff refreshed regularly. So there was stuff I was doing that I was still enjoying that event. And it's still a neat event, and I love going there and seeing everyone participating. I especially love Mount Mania. I think Mount Mania could just be one of those micro holidays they just add in on top of the anniversary event, where there just is a Mount Mania event where, people can all gather from around Azeroth. And I don't know, maybe you get some sort of transmog for your mount for a day or whatever it is if you win. But it would be neat to see something like that, because I enjoy those little competitions where the community gets involved, and inevitably the love rocket or something comes up as a mount and everyone groans in the audience as like one person has it or whatever it is, like
that one guy flexing
exactly,
with the mount or whatever.
Like it's fun to it makes it feel alive. It makes it feel more like an MMO. So I enjoy that a lot. So these events can be really cool, but I'm with you. Like, there wasn't anything super special or new or fancy about this other than, hey, you get a new transmog set, which you can buy with tokens, which I liked because it was obviously like zero commitment to needing to be able to do a lot to be able to earn that and buy it. And then same thing, the fresh title was a nice thing to get as well, and just pick that up. And it's sort of like I was here this year kind of thing. I don't know if those Mog sets and titles are going to be available next year. Probably will, but if they aren't, then hey, I got them for this year, and that's cool, and I'm good with that. So yeah, we'll see. I know a lot of people are splitting their time with Lemix and everything else, other games and things like that going on. So maybe anniversary event being low key is not a terrible thing this year for that kind of thing.
Yeah, I think overall it's fine. I'm not upset about it or anything as a player, as a customer. It's kind of what I expected after the big bonanza last year. So, yeah, that was really all I did in War Within this week, was just go down there and buy my Mog and go, well, this is hideous. I'm not going to be wearing this. I did play a little bit of Remix, which I'm pretty far behind because I haven't really been playing it a lot anyway. And then I was gone for, almost a whole week. So, Argus and all that stuff came out with this phase that launched this past Tuesday. I haven't gotten into any of that. I'm sort of like a phase behind on everything, but I had some time actually just this morning. I went around and did a bunch of Broken Shore stuff, and I got the meta achievement there that unlocks the sort of like the fell touched Charlemagne appearances. So that was cool. Like the unique stuff to the mode is like the number one thing that I want to make sure that I have to do.
Right.
If I don't get to clear out every vendor, which I want to do, I plan on as we get into the home stretch here of getting more serious about the bronze farm and everything. But it's like that stuff will be in the game in a lot of cases, right? Like the stuff from Legion will still be sitting there. You got to think that we'll get another event where they crank up legacy raid drop rates and stuff like that. That'll probably come back around every so often. And so if it's something if I don't clear out the vendors, and it's like, okay, just we'll do it at that point. So, but the unique stuff that they did for Remix is really cool. And the one for Argus that just came out is the bulwark of Manaroth. It's like the plate on his chest that you can use as a shield or a back attachment. So like, I got to get that done. So that's a bunch of Argus stuff to do. So I got to get that done. And then it's sort of like, all right, most of the big stuff to get the uniques is all done. Now it's sort of nothing pressing left to do except do the repetition to keep powering up and keep getting bronze, and then, buying stuff from vendors. So, it feels doable. I'm hoping that they end up coming in the last 30 days or whatever, or even the last 2 weeks, with some kind of big bronze acquisition buff. Just, crank up bronze from all sources or whatever. That would be really cool. I think even if they don't, if I can just stay consistent at this point, like I'll get everything out of the event. But I haven't been playing consistently, so that might be tough. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's one thing to say, oh, if I just do that. Well, I haven't done it. Like, the mode came out in early October, and I played here and there, and I did get into a decent rhythm of like, let me queue up and do all the mythic raids once a day. And so I got like over 200% verse and all that, which is not a lot. I mean, several people I know are maxed out on verse now, at 999. But, it's just kind of, it's been more of a gradual process, but I think considering how much stuff I came out of Legion already having, like I think it's doable without really dedicating myself to the grind. If I just stay consistent, I do some infinite researches, I do some raids, I do what is there, what the game is presenting. I think I can clean out the mode and feel like I did everything I need to do. Yeah. And I guess we just need to see about the housing decor is going to come in, and it's going to be tied to some achievements. So we'll see if I got those along the way, or if I have to then go focus on them to get those unlocks.
Right.
I guess for multiple copies, you'll need bronze to buy those as well. But it's like, to be honest, I'm not really planning on turning my house into a Legion base. Like, it's just not, that's not what I want to do. So just having the unlock and having it in the collection would be good enough for me, I think. So that's kind of what I'm looking at. And it's like, man, War Within retail, like it's slowed down so much, and it's like I'm still trying to keep the raid team rolling. We actually brought a couple new people in this past week while I was out, which is cool. So we're trying to keep some momentum going, but I know that like my time in War Within is just going to keep trickling down like until pre-patch, really. Like, right. Yeah, we got patch coming out in 2 weeks, and so I'll do that stuff, and that'll be a little spike for a couple weeks, and then it'll be like, okay, I finished all this. I'm not even doing my like weekly stuff anymore, because it's like, do I really need more crafting sparks? Like, there's other, if I'm going to spend time in WoW, it just doesn't feel like the place to be right now. Which is really like that's a decision that I feel like the devs made. They were like, listen, we're giving you this other stuff to do. You should be doing this.
Yeah, I do think that I don't know necessarily if the devs are making a decision of, hey, we're giving you other stuff to do, so you should be doing this, so much as when, hey, we recognize that this stuff is slowing down, so we're going to give you some options in case that's something you want to, continue to engage with. Because, that's sort of how I've been seeing it, as I know more and more people are looking at the other avenues in WoW and like the other versions of the game that they can play and other things they can do with WoW, and are really enjoying those at the moment, which is great. I personally was raiding this past week, so I was in to kill first 5 or first 6, and then we did the usual re-kills for the team that has done, which is what you normally do. First time you kill the last 2 bosses, you just bring in the same group for a couple of times just to make sure that you're guaranteeing mounts in, which is fine. And it was actually really, really smooth. I think we cleared the whole place in like 2 hours or 2.5 hours. It was wild how fast we went through it, which was really good. And it felt really good, which was nice. So that to me is, I'm very hopeful for what this re-clear is going to feel like. If we can maintain that for, at least a few weeks, I think people will really enjoy having Sunday be our re-clear, and then Monday ends up being, whatever it is we choose to do with it. And this past week we went back and killed old bosses for mounts. So we went back and killed Queen, and went back and killed, what's his name inside of the goblin? I remember his name. Gallywix, thank you.
Gallywix, yeah.
Yeah, went back and killed Gallywix, and made sure we got mounts out of that for folks too. So that was good. And I tell you, man, Queen just is a wild fight now. Oh my goodness. You literally get one phase where you have to bounce over top of the poison pools as they expand, and then you're into the shield phase, and you pop the shield so quickly that you can bug the boss out if you push too hard too fast. And then you get sent up to your sides, and it doesn't matter if one side wipes and dies, the damage is not high enough to the other side that stops them from completing that side and getting to Queen on the upper platform. And you only need like 3 people alive to blow Queen up on the upper platform, because by that point, Queen's down to like 23% hit points and has that entire like initial phase where she's just stunned hanging in the middle. And you're like, well, she's dead during that. So it was just like, oh my goodness. So that was very funny to go back and do. And that to me is what the tail end of an expansion should feel like for some of that content, is you should be able to just have a really fun time with folks, get the rewards in there that people might not have been around for, and have some fun. So that was neat. I enjoyed doing that, and I'm looking forward to the next time we get in there and do it. I'll probably take tonight's raid and tomorrow's raid off. You were traveling this past week. I had funeral stuff this past week, so my funeral stuff happened on Friday, and so there's still family around and folks that we're chatting with and sort of processing stuff. So I'm not tying myself down to any like strong commitment on things other than recording TSC. This is something I did not like put on the burner to go, hey, I just want to have time and I don't want to worry about being booked into something. So this is important to me to make sure we get this in for folks and get our downtime to talk about World of Warcraft. So I want to be sure this fit. But yes, I might take this week off from Raid and then kick back in next week, and feeling more like myself and everything that's going on. So yes, but yeah, that was my week in WoW outside of that stuff.
Yeah, just trying to get maybe a bit more back into, but then again, trying to get more into a routine this week, and then it's a big holiday week in the US. So
yeah,
like we're already sort of like, okay, we're just going to do Tuesday raid. Probably we're not even going to attempt to do Wednesday raid, which is Thanksgiving Eve. A lot of people are traveling, stuff like that.
Yeah.
So now it's that combo of downtime in retail plus holiday season spinning up. And it's like, hey man, we're just going to take whatever we can get. Whoever's around wants to do stuff, we'll do it when we can do it. And if not, we'll see you next year.
Yeah. All right. With that, let's hop into what's going on this week in World of Warcraft. All right, this week is Battle for Azeroth Time Walking, which means the BFA reputation gains have been increased from Combat and Quest by 50%, as well as characters level 10 and above can time walk their ways through Atal Dazar, Freehold, King's Rest, Shrine of the Storms, Temple of Sothralis, and Waycrest Manor. Drop in some 655 eye-level loot, as well as a vendor selling off 632s, and there's a quest to complete 5 of them to get yourself a cache of normal Manaforge Omega gear, if that's something you're looking to get as well. We have the Koresh weeklies that we recommend people do if you have not gone through them. That was something I went back. I realized I never saved the snakes. Was something I did not do for Ecodome. No. So I literally was scrolling through achievements and exploration was like, wait a minute, what do you mean I didn't finish all of this? Where is this? And it took me a while to find it. I didn't realize I had to take a portal to Nagrand, to then talk to Hemet, to then start the quest, to then be able to get the snakes. I completely missed that. So I had no breadcrumbs at all for it. So I figured it out and got that and saved the snakes. So if you have not done your weekly stuff over for Ecodome or your warrants or anything like that, those are good things to get done. And especially if you're still working on Koresh Trust Rep, which gets you the ability to purchase that Infinite Augment Rune, which I love oh so much to have. And just have it now in my buff bar of, hey, I need to click this before I go into combat, which is very nice. And it's just a nice, main stat buff. So it's a good thing to have overall. Outside of that, it is the Delves Weekly from Brand. So if you're someone who's looking for some casual, relaxing delving, this is a good week for that. Be sure you get in there. If you have your Titan Disc Fragments quest still to complete, this is a great way to complete that Titan Disc Fragment quest. That'll get done as well. So definitely keep that in mind. And enjoy your happy delving this week for getting that spark for yourself unlocked if that's something you're trying to do. The brawl for the week is South Shore versus Terran Mill, and this is that harken back to the 10th anniversary of World of Warcraft, more than 11 years ago when they put this out, and it was it still is a 40-on-40 death match, and it is basically the Alliance versus Horde. Going at it between South Shore and Terran Mill, and whatever team manages to deplete the resources of the other team first wins. And if you have Death Knights, this is the thing we say every year when this thing rolls around. It is really nice to just grip in folks that are that are of the opposite faction and watch them explode in your death ball of 40 players that you have. Although there is a twist on this now, because I'm curious how many people would be strong enough on their evokers to rescue people being gripped in, and whether or not you'd see this like back and forth of gripping people in and dragons flying in and flying them out before they die. But because it could be pretty epic, I'm just thinking. So it's certainly something worth checking out.
Yeah, you line up your death grips, your leaps of faith, and your rescues, and you're just moving people all over the place. Yeah. It's kind of cool that this lined up with anniversary event going on, because this was originally a mode in the anniversary event from that year back in 2014. It's just very old school. The idea is to evoke that, the open world PvP in the days before there were battlegrounds in the game. And that is really what it's, that's what it's aiming for. And so it's great timing. I love that it rolled up this time of year and during the anniversary event, even though it's not actually tied to it in any way. But just the theming and everything lining up is pretty cool. So
yeah.
It's fun. If you need some HKs or whatever for some achievements, it's a good brawl to queue for because you get a ton of them in a pretty short window of time, and there's not really a whole lot of technique except don't get too deep across the map. That's about it. So
inevitably,
it's a cool one.
Inevitably, one team will push too close to the other team's graveyard and then regret it as they are stretched too thin.
Yeah,
and the death ball will roll over them back towards their graveyard. It's quite entertaining to be a part of. So definitely a lot of fun. It can be a bit stressful on your computer. 40 on 40, everyone casting spells inside a small area. Death ball can be a little intensive, but it is an enjoyable experience overall. All right, the Mythic Plus affix for the week is Devour. And you might be like, wait a minute, you said it was Devour last week, but it was Voidbound. Well, that's because they inverted the rotation again. I don't know why they keep doing it, but they keep being like, all right, it's been 5 weeks. Let's just throw a wrench in Jason's plans and just mix it up again from where we were previously. So just when we think we get a handle on it, they mess around with it again. So yes, last week was Voidbound. This week we believe is Devour. And that is the healing quota. You have to heal through the quota, and you can obviously dispel it off. So folks that can take a dispel without, giving up something major in some way, this is a great week to spec into those dispels. And be sure you're clicking the dispel on yourself just to remove this healing quota from yourself, so the healer doesn't have to, and helping your group out with that.
It's weird. I don't know why. The rotation must be set on purpose like this. It's just different than it was in season 2. And I know the affixes from season 1 and 2 were different, but the logic was the same in seasons 1 and 2 of how the rotation would work. So this is just a little inside out. And I guess the good thing is we've mostly been wrong this season about Voidbound weeks, which there's really not a lot of technique about other than kill the Voidbound ad when it spawns. So yeah, Devour, always good to, especially if you're playing in an uncoordinated group, just bring something to help out. Bring something to take care of yourself, for example. Just be aware of it. If you're playing in a coordinated group, you can have that discussion. Who's going to do it? How are we going to do it? What's the approach? But if you're just joining, group finder dungeons, then be able to take care of yourself. Your healer will thank you. And by extension, the rest of your group will, even if they don't literally thank you.
Yeah. As we mentioned at the top of the show, the WoW's 21st anniversary event is currently running. It runs from November 16th to December 7th outside of the Caverns of Time in Tanaris. And if you are looking to get the new stuff, then you can buy yourself the Loyal Watchman's Ensemble. That is the transmog we talked about with helm, gauntlets, trousers, cuirass, spalders, belt, and boots. And you can have that new set for yourself. There's also a new title that you can pick up. Overall, this means that there is a 75% increased experience gain buff in the game. And what that means is, this is how they break it down inside of their blog post, you can get 20% increased experience and reputation from the anniversary event, just for completing the events for those days. You get a 12+ hour buff that can be refreshed every day based off just completing the events for the event, completing the tasks for the event. You also get a 25% experience buff from having 5 Warband members at max level. You can also get the 10% experience and gold buff from War Mode, just from having that toggled on. And then an additional 10% from the Draft of the 10 Lands potion, which works on characters level 49 and lower. So it's a little bit of a clickbait kind of title thing to be like, enjoy a 75% increased experience buff. And you're like, sure, but that's only if you have all of these other things completed and your character is below level 49 and you're using a Draft of 10 Lands to be able to make that happen. So really what you're talking about is a 20% increased experience and reputation buff from the anniversary event that is currently available on top of the other stuff that is just naturally in the game that you may or may not have unlocked or acquired. So keep that in mind. There are quests that you can complete here and achievements you can complete here. So it is certainly worth going down, especially if you did not take advantage of last year's thing. There is also, if you do not know this, underneath of the Transmog stage, if you go in from the backside towards where the mountains are, there is a vendor. That vendor sells a glyph of hex as well as another glyph of poison or something like that that's there. So be sure you are, if I think it's rogues and shamans, you can get down there and get a glyph that is only available during the anniversary event. So be sure you're picking those up in case you want those. Outside of that, currency that you earn are marks of honor, obviously, the Time Warp badges, as you'd expect, ancient mana, as well as the polished pet charms that you can get from this event. And Time War badges is just a really great source of them. If you're someone who like really wants to gather up a ton of Time War badges, this is the time to be like, okay, let's be into this and working on this. And we're coming up on another big time walking event that's going to kick off, so gather them all now, hang on to them, because if there's an expansion you want to buy something from, you're about to get back to back to back time walking and be able to find what it was you were looking to buy vendor wise pretty quickly. But there are other vendors there as well. So like I said, if you did not buy everything the first go around, there's other things you can buy there as well. But overall, it's not like there's a lot new here, but it's still a lot of fun. Like I said, I enjoy going to Lore Walker Cho's, presentation he does, telling old stories and doing the Transmog competition and doing the Mount Mania stuff that happens there, as well as all of those things contribute towards your Traveler's Journal. So if you're trying to get some Trader's Tender, you can get a bunch of Trader's Tender from the anniversary event. So it's a great way to get that capped out for the month too.
Yeah, true. I mean, there's a little something for everybody kind of at the event, right? There's all kinds of stuff to do. All the stuff you mentioned, there's the Chromie scenario too. There's the world bosses. There's the anniversary BlackRock Depths raid that you can do via LFR. It's just an option in the queue. There's 3 wings. Last year it was like multiple different difficulties, but this time it's just Raid Finder, which is probably okay. I think there were probably better reasons to have it, like, for the 20th and with the timing on when it was released, to have it more of a robust thing. I think it's fine to just have a nod to it and have it in LFR. We already got 2 new time walking events in this expansion, and we're getting a 3rd in a couple weeks. So that means a lot of new stuff on Time Warp badge vendors. So a lot of sources of badges is a good thing. The XP thing is weird because of the timing. I think you're probably still better off if you have a max level tune in remakes. If you want to level a tune, you're probably still better off just doing that and just leveling a tune in remakes and transferring it.
Yeah. If
you really would prefer to play the War Within content, or you want to play an Evoker, then this is really nice. Also, like that reputation, I mean, you were talking about Koresh Trust earlier for like the augment rune and stuff. If you don't have that, I mean, 20% extra rep is pretty significant. It doesn't take very long to get your extra 10%. What I usually do is I use the pet mirror thing over by the pet area to turn myself into a pet. Then you get like 2% or 4% progress on the bar like every few seconds or whatever. So I will kind of just like turn myself into a pet, go sit there with Lore Walker Cho, hit the buttons when they pop up to react to the story, and then usually you're done pretty fast. So another thing, Koresh Trust, and also if Undermine, right? There were all the different Goblin cartels. That was a lot of rep that maybe you didn't do, or maybe you wanted to do the last one, the Dark Fuse. That grind is pretty significant. So could be a good opportunity to do that too if you're trying to, you're going through your late expansion, end of expansion checklist. What didn't I do? What do I still care about? So, that 20% rep will come in handy with that stuff. So, yeah, I mean, even if the unique reward from this year are a little underwhelming, there's still stuff you can do. There's still reasons to take advantage of the event or whatever. So, yeah, it's a lot. I mean, they spent a lot of dev time revamping the anniversary thing and making it a big activity hub and packing a ton of rewards in there. So, if there's anything that you are interested in that you didn't grab last year, if you didn't play it at all last year, it's a lot shorter than it was for the 20th. We only have like 2 weeks left on it at this point, and where it was basically like a whole 2-month thing last time. So it might be a little bit harder to grab every single thing if you have nothing coming in, but yeah, I mean, there's a lot of opportunity to do stuff and to target the rewards that you want. Even if, maybe, okay, I'm not going to be able to get everything, but I really want these 3 sets for the 3 tunes that I play the most. Like you can probably get that done without having to get like spreadsheets out to track, how much you're getting from each daily source and how many tunes you need to rotate through or whatever. Like you could just play the game. So yeah, it's good. I probably will not be doing much else with it, honestly, at this point. Like, I went and bought the new stuff and went, okay. I mean, I have all my classes leveled up. My rep is I have as much rep as I care to have for this expansion. Like I didn't finish Dark Fuse. I didn't get anywhere close, but like that Dark Fuse grind is just not something I'm interested in. So I'm just not doing that, and everything else is maxed out. So, for me, I think I'm probably just not doing really any of this probably for the next couple weeks.
Well, no, I mean, your time is going to be totally taken up by having food fights during Pilgrim's Bounty, which is just kicked off today.
True.
So live today, and it's going to run until Sunday the 30th. We haven't seen any official blog post from Blizzard about this, and we have, Wowhead obviously has not had a chance, since this just went live 40 minutes ago, to get their post up about it. So we would encourage people to check to see if there's new things there from that. What Wowhead did have is they had data mined 2 additional turkey tints. So if you're someone who got the Highlands Gobbler and the prize turkey from the trading post already, we know there's a murky turkey, which is a purple turkey, as well as a quirky turkey, which is sort of a dark one with some brown highlights. Those are 2 other turkeys that are things that you can earn. So presumably those would be earned through this year's Pilgrim's Bounty, but we're not sure. So either way, be sure that you are checking Wowhead and whatnot for what the new stuff is that's coming out today with that. I expected a post on Thursday from Blizzard about what was happening with this, but they're clearly very busy with beta, and that is where their brains are at the moment, so they have not gotten anything out about Pilgrim's Bounty yet. But either way, there will be bountiful tables found inside Dornogal, as well as Valdrakken and all of the old cities, and this is where you can get your Spirit of Sharing buff, and that is a very nice buff to have for folks getting themselves that extra 10% reputation gain for 1 hour. So if you stack that with the reputation gain from the anniversary event, and all those rep stuff Jason was just talking about is just increased that much more, which is really nice. So keep that in mind as well. For those who want to go back and do all the Venthyr stuff, it also means that Theotar's Neverending Feast is currently going, and Night Fae players can get the Spirit of Sharing for continuing to eat inside the chair, and you get your turkey soul critter shape. If you want to turn into a spirit turkey, you can do that too. That's another one of those things. There's cosmetics for the pilgrim's hat, attire, dress, robe, and boots, and obviously those can all be transmogged during this event, and you can have that as your outfit if that's what you're looking for. There's the plump turkey pet that you can get from completing the holiday meta achievement, as well as the frightened bush chicken from Pilgrim's Bounty rewards. The toys out there, the big one Jason makes sure no one ever misses out on, is the silver-plated turkey shooter. This is something that you have to do the event regularly to be able to get. It covers your target in turkey feathers, has a 5-minute cooldown, so you can do it pretty often, and you can get it from the Pilgrim's Bounty rewards that you can get out there. So certainly an event that only lasts a week, but has some really neat stuff attached to it. So be sure you're not missing out on this one.
Yeah, the turkey shooter is hilarious. Like, just, shooting your friend with turkey feathers on a 5-minute cooldown, no less. I wonder if they've changed it. I haven't checked recently. You never know. Sometimes they nerf these toys, but it's only a week, which means you don't really have a lot of wiggle room on it, right? If there's stuff you want to get from it, you really got to prioritize it, because there's just no time frame on this. It'll be over probably by the next time we record, and we don't even have information on the 2025 iteration of the event right now as we're talking. So that's a little annoying. It would have been great if this stuff had come out in advance, especially because it's a shorter holiday, but I stay caught up with it, even though they haven't added a ton of new stuff. But yeah, we got the new turkey model, so there could very well be some new stuff this year. I'll make sure to grab it. Yeah, like the Turkinator is the one where you have to shoot like however many turkeys in like a short time frame.
Well, you get a buff, and the buff will expire, so you have to keep the buff refreshing by killing additional turkeys. Yeah,
and I think that is part of that is the thing that rewards the turkey shooter or something. You have to do it as part of the event, and it used to be kind of hard, like years ago, like Cataclysm days when it came in, but I think the cheat code was back in 23 when they added the tables in Valdrakken. I think they added a whole bunch of turkeys to Onaran Plains. So if you need to do the Turkinator achievement, that might be where you want to go.
Okay.
So yeah, just keep that in mind. It is cool that they've incorporated the holiday into the newer zones. They weren't always doing that. It was like, especially in Shadowlands, that was a big offender, which kind of made sense, I guess, in the story. Like, they don't celebrate Azeroth holidays in the Shadowlands, but it it felt very disconnected to be like, okay, I'm going to leave this place where my character lives for the next 2 weeks. I'm going to go over this other place every day, and I'm doing this. And yeah, so it's cool that, you know, in the more recent expansions, it's been incorporated. You can just go do your Spirit of Sharing in Dornegal if you want to. So that's great.
Yeah. So yeah, keep your eyes posted on Wowhead, obviously, to see what they're announcing when it comes to this event, or explore it yourself and see if you can find what the the new things are. But I'll be checking that out later today. Probably I'll pop on for a little bit and just poke around Pilgrim's Bounty to see what there is going on with that. But yeah, literally we started recording the show and that's when the event would go live, and it was like, well, we can't do much checking on our own at the moment. Another event that's kicking off in a week and a bit is the Turbulent Timeways event. So that's going to be happening from December 2nd until February 3rd. This is 10 consecutive weeks, beginning and ending with Shadowlands. So this grand tour is going to be, hopping into Shadowlands right up front and then working your way back through all the old expansions and then ending with Shadowlands again. And this is a really don't miss event when it comes to people who want to get rewards. There's typically a mount associated with completing it 5 times in a row. You get the Master of the Timeways for a new mount every year. So you want to be sure that you're doing 5 of these every week, or you do 5 in your first week and then you just do 1 in the consecutive weeks because you do it on a character you don't log into that often. But by refreshing your Timeways buff, it might be 4 actually, I'm saying 5, but I think it's 4. You will then, once you've done that 5 weeks in a row, refresh that buff. It doesn't have to be in a row. Technically, you can skip a week and then do it a week afterwards. You just have to do it 5 times. You will get a mount. And so I always make sure I don't miss this. The fact that it's 10 weeks long, this is a huge opportunity for you to be able to get this done. If you're someone who really wants your mount out of this, then like you have so many weeks to be like, I'm not really into doing classic, I'm not really into doing versus, I'm not really interested in doing BFA dungeons, whatever it is. And that's fine, because there's another week coming up and you can go and do it on that one. As I was saying, the strategy for me is I take an alt. That alt does the Timeways to get the buff, does enough dungeons to get the buff. I then log out of that character and don't log into them again until the next week, and I just refresh that buff by doing 1 dungeon that week. And then you just sort of track the, of 5 that you have for the achievement and make sure that you are getting that all done, within a short and orderly time. So I'm hoping that this is nice and easy for me again this year. Outside of that, though, while this is going on, you get a 50% bonus to reputations earned from quests and kills for all reputations related to that corresponding expansion. So if you're someone who wants to get some of the old expansion reputations, which you might, because this goes live on December 2nd, which is the same time housing does, and there could be things associated with reputations and housing. I'm just saying, it might be like, I don't know, maybe some Cataclysm reps have a certain chair or something that you want associated with them. So you're going to want to go back and be sure you're participating in some of these things that are going on with this. So you got to run Stone Core and Vortex Pinnacle and whatnot to be able to get your buff done, and then go do a bunch of other quest stuff there to get your additional Timeway stuff. They also have it so that by actually completing this buff that I'm talking about, you get additional experience gain up to 30% for getting the Mastery of the Timeways during this event as well. So like, this is going to be very juicy. There'll be a very short, there'll be like a 1 week, not even overlap with the anniversary event. And that's where you start thinking, is this better than Remix? This might be better than the Remix stuff that we're doing, because you've got the 75% if you've gotten, all the other criteria met already. You then get the additional 30% from this. You're at 105% increased experience gain. That's pretty nice. And you could level up characters while getting your buff for the Timeways mount. That might be worthwhile for someone to level a character that way. So just keep that in mind. Maybe go out and do your anniversary event on that character first and get that big buff, and then go out and do a bunch of time walking, and maybe you'll max that character out in 1 week. Who knows? Just by doing time walking dungeons could be a thing. So keep that in mind. And yeah, it is an event that I've grown to really enjoy whenever they do this. I mean, obviously with Remix happening at the same time, it's not the fastest way to level, but it is a very fast way to level. It's really nice to see the different time walking vendors come back every week. and see what all the goodies are on them to be able to pick up the stuff you want to get. It's really nice to have the extra reputation gain if that's something you're trying to do for old reps. And, you know, obviously the amount of badges you earn, the amount of Time Warp badges you earn during this is a huge amount. So it's really nice for picking up those rewards.
Yeah, and it's a good thing that you can get so many badges because there's just so much stuff to buy.
Oh my goodness. Yeah.
Like, I mean, yeah, we're getting a whole new vendor in, and, you know, I'm not caught up on the 2 new vendors that already came out in War Within. And also, like, the mount this time is a little different than what they've done in the past. Like, the first 3 times there was a unique mount that everybody got from doing the thing, and you just have it. Yeah. And that was the mount for that. And then later on, when you know, other time walking events would come in, then it would be on the vendor for a badge cost. What they're doing this time, there's actually 4 new mounts, and they're themed around the Covenant mounts from Shadowlands. So, like, the gargoyle thing and the dragon with the wolf face and the corpse fly.
Yeah.
You know, it's all those, but they have this sort of like bronze skin theming, like they're, you know, time warped, the whole bronze thing with the bronze dragonflight. So what happens is once you complete this on week 5, you get a voucher that lets you pick one. And so whichever one you want, that's yours. It's not tied to any kind of Covenant choice or anything. You don't have to go back to Oribos and like switch your Covenant in order to ride the mount you want. You just buy it and you ride it. And then the other ones immediately go to the vendor, which is cool. You don't have to wait, but they're like 5K a piece. Right. So that's like 15K. If you're a mount collector, then once you do all that, then it's 15K for these new mounts. I mean, you'll be able to get them again later down the road as time walking rolls back around or whatever, but that's what they're doing for this event. So it's like, in addition to a whole new vendor coming in a world where we have a couple pretty still new vendors added within the last year. And as we talked about before, like, the time walking schedule is really inconsistent. So you don't always have access to all these vendors. These are both a factor there as well. And then also the older event vendors all got new stuff recently as part of all this time walking refresh. So yeah, there's just like thousands and thousands of badges worth of stuff to buy. And the bonus mount thing for this event also then unlocks more stuff to buy for more thousands of badges. So yeah. I think it's kind of a cool way to do it because also for me, it's like, I don't care about these. Like, I might not do this because I don't love those Covenant mounts anyway. They're kind of cool, but Shadowlands is just not, it was never my aesthetic, even just the gameplay aside, whatever. It's just not, I don't know. I'm not super motivated to do this much time walking for this reward specifically. Not like the Chrono Corsair from last time. It was like, I need that. I have to have that. What do you want me to do? Okay, I'm doing that. For these, I could take or leave them, but it is cool that you get the choice of whichever one that really speaks to you. And if you're just a collector and you got to have all of them, hey man, you can just go grind those badges away, and you don't, you know, you're only limited by the amount of badges you can acquire in this 10-week window. So yep. It's super long. When I saw the post, I'm like, wait, does that say December 2nd to February 3rd? Yep. And indeed it does. And yeah, I mean, it will be, you know, it is a good opportunity to level, but yeah, it's going to be tough to gauge. Like, okay, this will extend past Remix. So once Remix expires, like, this will be like the go-to for any last minute tune leveling probably. And also, I mean, you do get the heroic cash. The weekly reward bumps up to the heroic cash, which is a big roll of the dice, but it could be a really good reward, you know, especially True. For a tune that you're leveling through it or whatever. So, you know, it's a big pool. There's a lot of loot in Manaforge Omega, so it's not like, oh, you're just automatically going to get something that you really wanted. But hey, you know what? It's not a big ask. It's not like you need a lot of effort to get through 5 time walking dungeons with the way this stuff works these days. So it's a lot of opportunity to get tunes ready for midnight. If you want to play something different or you want to kind of go through your bench and get some tunes ready to hop into new stuff, like this is going to be a nice long window with a lot of opportunity for that.
Yeah, and I want to also highlight, because you mentioned the Corsair, the Chrono Corsair is also going to be available on all of the Time Walking vendors for badges. So if you're someone who missed out on that this go around, you can still get your Chrono Corsair just from buying it with badges. So it's yet another thing you could spend badges on if you didn't get it the last go around when it was the actual reward mount, which I'm really glad to see. I like the fact that it's like, oh, well, if you did it at the time, you got the mount for free. But if you didn't do it at the time, you can still buy the mount later. I think for this event, it works really well. And actually, the way they're doing the Master of the Timeways mount this go around for Shadowlands with the 4 different mounts reminds me a little bit of how the Orphan event works, where you get to pick a pet every year, basically, from the different expansions that they were doing it. And then you'd be like, okay, well, that's your one voucher you got to use this year. Come back next year for the next mount that you want to. It reminded me a bit of that, but in a better way of, hey, pick your free mount that you get that you've earned. And then the other 3 will go up for tokens, and you can earn that next year. And you can earn that and buy that off of, the vendors next year if you don't earn it this year, or there's something else you want this year. So I think that's a really neat thing. And then last but not least, just to mention in this, we're obviously going to see the Time Walking raids also happen during these weeks as well. So, we are going to have the access to that loot as well. There will be the heroic pieces out of doing that you can get. So certainly another source of loot and maybe a little bit of fun for your raid team if that's something you're wanting to spend some time on in this winding down period, to go back and do some old raids, get all those old achievements, all that kind of stuff will be available for folks.
Yeah, true. Man, I wish we had some more Time Walking raids. Maybe that would be a thing I'd love to see in Midnight, is to get a Pandaria Time Walking raid finally. Yeah. Get Throne of Thunder in there or something. I mean, they had some catching up to do because we didn't get the Time Walkings. Like, BFA was actually pretty late, Shadowlands is on time. So now we're back on schedule, basically, for Time Walking, which is really weird because that means that in Midnight we should get Dragonflight Time Walking, which feels bizarre, but that's the way that they've done it. That's the way they did it up until now. But BFA ended up coming in pretty late compared to the way the schedule usually worked. But yeah, that would be, I think we could probably not have Dragonflight come in the next 2 years or so and get some more raids going instead. Time Walking raids are pretty cool, and we haven't had a new one in a really long time. So that's what I would like to see out of the system going forward, now that we got pretty caught up on getting expansions in the rotation.
Yeah, we need to see that become more prominent, because it is always fun when it comes around. It's also a really nice source of loot when it comes around. So the more Time Walking events that have a raid in them, the more likely you are to see like a season start for a new expansion and then have a Time Walking raid associated with it. So you can get that like one really cool old item from the past that's a heroic piece that, goes into a space that feels really powerful for a period. And that can be really exciting. So that's something else that I enjoy about that. As far as hotfixes for the game goes this week, there's one that I actually felt, which is they fixed a bug causing druids in flight form to fly slower than they would on a flying mount. I felt this on Dimensius, is when I felt this, is when I was like, oh, I'll just shapeshift into flight. I was like, I'm not flying the speed I should be. I need to get pull a mount out of my mount book and put it on my bar to be like, let's make sure I'm using this instead, because flight form's not working properly. So I'm glad they fixed that, because that was really uncomfortable, I have to say. And then the rest of it primarily just fell around Legion Remix, where they fixed issues preventing time runners from earning achievements, as far as the Law and Order achievement for a bunch of classes. They fixed issues causing Broken Shore world bosses quest to not reward, cash and infinite power. They fixed a bunch of other achievement things here and there that they were working on. They fixed an issue causing druids to be unable to dreamwalk during the defense of Aviana. They implemented fixes for workarounds for the following issues causing some time runners to be unable to collect their hidden artifact appearances. So that's demon hunters, druids, mages, monks, and warlocks that were all not able to access these, can now access these again. As far as Horos, is now selling off the Shards of Darkness for Retribution Paladin artifacts, and the Tome of Otherworldly Venoms, as well as the designs of the Grand Architect, that is Subtlety Rogue and Beastmastery Hunter, are also Horos's store is now selling those things as well. So check that out. The Unholy Death Knights can now find a time warp trap door leading to Arceus's and Putricide's secret lab, as well as they fixed an issue causing Holy Death Knights of all timelines to be unable to summon a particular member of the Army of the Dead. Interesting. I actually don't know what they're referring to, but there clearly is a very poignant reference here. Do you know this one, Jason?
I don't, although I do think it's funny that it affects Death Knights of all timelines. I don't know what the Army of the Dead member they're referring to is, and I haven't really played any Death Knight in retail or remix, so I don't know. I did have a weird bug though, where I logged into retail after the Argus phase went out, and I got the achievement for completing the Suramar campaign, like the Nighthold campaign, and then that gave me a tick of infinite knowledge in remix when I logged over into my remix too. So there is some weird stuff with like data going into versions of the game where it doesn't belong, and I appreciated that. That was a great bug. I was like, oh, that's fantastic. I really didn't want to do those quests again anyway, so I'll take the knowledge. But yeah, I can't shed any light on what this fix actually was, but it is. There have been some weird instances of like data cross-pollinating between remix and the regular live game.
Right. Yeah. All right. As far as the next chunk that we want to chat about here goes, Midnight beta test development notes have gone up for the week. And yeah, this beta test has gotten a lot of feedback so far, and I will reiterate, this is beta. This is the first week of beta. This is a version of the game that is going to change dramatically. Feedback is good. Judging the expansion based off of what we're seeing in the first week of beta, too early, guys. It's way too early. The amount of clickbait video stuff that has come out being like, freaking health bars don't work at all. They're all over the place. How can you interrupt anything? The health bars are terrible. Like, guys, they're like, this is beta week 1. Give them a break. If we were less than a month from launch or a month from launch, I'd be way more worried about what the state of where things were. They have 3 months, maybe 3.5, 4 months, depending on what they choose to do, before we actually get this to where it's going to be. There's lots of work to be done. Just the big caveat off the top, because the amount of stuff I saw fly out this week about, stuff not working at the moment, I feel like people are on a hair trigger with these things, and week 1 of beta is going to be messy. That just is what it is. So when we talk about Endgame Realm, Xalatas Endgame is a separate beta region that is going to be focused on Endgame content, so you can actually get into that. Check out profession vendors and trainers, check out class set vendors, PvP gear, trinket vendors. They're all available on that Xalatas Endgame Realm, if that's something you're looking at checking. So keep that out in mind when you're talking about beta stuff. This environment is locked to using max level character templates as well, and players will not be able to access Midnight outdoor zones, as the focus of this environment is on instanced content, raid, dungeon, and PvP content. Character copy is not available on this realm. So if you're someone who just wants to test out that content, they have actually, this first time I've ever seen them do this, created a specific beta realm you can log into that just does that. And I think that's pretty wise to allow people to do that. So that way they can control and test and probably change specific things about that realm without affecting the other ones if they wanted to. So that's kind of neat if that's something they're choosing to do.
Yeah, just super convenient for testers too, right? If you just want to pop in and do the dungeon or raid testing, like you just make a tune on Xalatas Endgame Realm and off you go.
Yeah.
You don't have to, and this way you can also avoid, I know some people like want to play the content, but they are averse to either like story spoilers or they don't want to do the questing like multiple times. So this kind of lets you avoid that as well. You're not going to, like, you literally can't do anything else other than raid dungeon PvP. So, I think it's a great option. Hopefully it'll encourage people maybe to get some testing in who otherwise wouldn't, because they don't want to spoil themselves on the non-repeatable content or the less repeatable content than this endgame stuff. So yeah, I think it's a great decision. I would love to get in there and do some of this stuff myself, but like, it's just a matter of time and I just don't have it. It's just, I don't think I'm going to be able to get in there and do dungeon and raid testing. We got a normal raid testing weekend coming up, it would be great to like hop in there with some people from the team and check it out. But just realistically, it's like, how are we going to do that? How are we going to coordinate all that?
Yeah.
Like that's just the reality of all, of the state of my life and a bunch of people that I play with, the time of year, all that stuff. It's just like, man, I wish I could, but I'm not going to be able to. But I would definitely take advantage of this if I was doing that. It's really cool that they went this route.
Yeah, yeah. Now we've seen some other updates to classes still happening in here, but to me, it's still just too early to really judge what making something do 15% less damage or making something do 4% more damage really does. So just keeping in mind there's still tuning taking place. So I'm not gonna talk too much about that sort of thing. I will mention that they removed Thrash from cat form, from cat form druids. It's something that they're no longer able to do, and it really sounds like they're just trying to reduce button bloat in doing that. So as long as they're still giving enough AoE damage to that class, enough single target damage to that class, then I guess that makes sense. So we did see increases to shred as well as cat form swipe damage. So clearly they're trying to make sure that isn't felt in a big missed way. But reducing button bloat I think can be a good thing overall, and so I wanted to mention that because that's another step in that direction. They did say that all druids learn bear form thrash at level 11 now. So it was a talent, now it's just baked in. So again, freeing up talent points as well as something that they're choosing to do, which is nice to see. So good to see that as well. As far as user interface stuff goes, the edit mode, raid frame settings, you can now adjust the opacity and the default icon size for debuffs. And the raid frames now have fewer layout presets called templates. And they have a few layout presets called templates. You can actually have a few templates that you choose to do. The new,
sounds really cool. Like, I haven't had a chance to look at it yet, but it's like, obviously the baked in raid frames have been lacking for a lot of players, especially healers, for a long time. And Blizzard is committed to delivering better ones. I think having some templates there where you could just give players an idea of, okay, this is what's possible. Here's like a suggestion to get you started. I think that's great. Like this would be a good kind of concept to bring across to all of these new UI elements. Like here's some presets, like mess with them. Here's what we think might be a starting point for you to use. I think that would make the transition a lot easier for people, just show them an example of, here's some positioning and some stuff turned on, and here's a layout that you might actually want to play with. Like that. Right. That sounds really smart, I think, as we're making this transition.
Yeah. As far as user interface goes, they also did some boss warning updates here. So they added a state for queued boss abilities. They also added icons indicating roll for tank, healer, and damage, for effect, including poison, magic, curse, that sort of stuff. They and if a spell is deadly, so if there's a deadly spell, they now have an icon for that as well. Several options added for hide queue countdowns, hide countdowns for other roles, and spell support to iconography. And they added a shortcut button in edit mode to open boss warning settings, so making that easier. You don't have to dig as far to find that. So this is all, again, moving in the right direction. Really glad to see this. I actually wasn't expecting these changes to be in week 1 of beta. So that's nice to see happening so quickly. So that's really good as well. And then damage meters in now too is the other big thing here. So we have current categories like damage done, DPS, damage taken, healing per second, interrupts, and dispels. I still want death in here. One of my favorite things in our damage meters right now is like what happened to you in a death. So I'd love if they included that. That'd be a nice thing to toss in there right away. Once enabled, various settings for the damage meter are available in edit mode. It's going to support tracking with individual combat pulls or across all pulls. It supports up to 3 windows at the same time. Primary window can be moved and resized in edit mode. Secondary windows adjust outside or are adjustable outside of edit mode. And I assume that's just a technological limitation that they have, where the first one you turn on is very tied to edit mode, and the second ones are just tied to themselves. Is probably what was going on there. Right-clicking on an individual...
like it needs an anchor,
yeah,
right?
It needs of some kind, yeah.
There's their primary windows, like the anchor, and then the other two, like you can adjust outside of it, probably, something like that.
Right-clicking on individual entry in the damage meter will open a separate window containing a per-spell breakdown. Developer notes on this says that this feature is still active development. Various pieces of the UI are still works in progress, and the combat statistics shown may not be completely accurate across some cases. So yeah, basically just saying, hey guys, it's still beta. Like, expect this to be something that we improve and work on. So a lot of, like, this feels almost complete. Like I said, I want some other options. I love that they have interrupts and dispels. Those are huge things to be able to track live inside of a damage meter. I think they should stop calling it damage meters, find a better name for it. But the damage done, the DPS, damage taken, enemy damage taken is a nice one to check too. It's nice to be able to see who's doing what to what enemies. Yeah. So be sure that's getting broken down somewhere in there too. And then, yeah, for me, deaths is a big one, is seeing what happened to someone when they died. So if they can get... Now, mind you, deaths doesn't involve combat, because typically you're looking at that outside of a combat situation, which means that maybe that's something that there isn't as much restriction on. So maybe they're actually counting on people having an even better death add-on than something they bake into this. But it would be nice if it was baked into this, because it's certainly very helpful for players to be able to check that.
Yeah, I think we need that. I was really happy to see interrupts and dispels make their way into the initial iteration, because it's something that you definitely want tracking on, as usually more of a post-mortem, right? Like, you're not necessarily paying as much attention to that in the middle of combat, and deaths absolutely falls into that category. That's a key tool that I think, like, our team has used in the details era, right? Like, once details kind of became... the de facto meter for a lot of teams, and it has so many cool features. When you're trying to analyze, okay, why did we wipe here? Why did this pull not go right? Or, like, what are we doing wrong? What do we need to do better? Things like interrupts, dispels, and deaths are key pieces of information at a glance to go, okay, oh, you died because this thing happened. Or, you combine them. You died because this cast went off, which could have been interrupted, but wasn't because whatever. Yeah. These are what we really use the meters for in terms of, like, raid progress, right? Like, once you're sort of farming stuff, it's like, oh, who did the most damage on this fight, haha, whatever, right? But, like, as an actual tool to analyze what's happening in combat and how you can do better next time or whatever, I feel like we need that information more than the raw throughput numbers. So yeah, I would love to see deaths come into that. I'm glad that they're already out in front of some of this stuff. Yeah, just make the baked in stuff as much like details as you can possibly do, and and then lock down whatever might be causing the inaccuracy with the numbers, and then I think we'll be okay.
Yeah, and I want to mention another way that these things are often used. We're moving into a new expansion, and then in 3 or 4 months, whatever it is, there's going to be new dungeons that people are getting used to with new abilities, and they're not going to be sure what those abilities necessarily do. So if you die to something and you cannot check your death log to be like, what actually killed me? Was it an AoE? Was it a cast? Was it what? You can actually identify that. So in a lot of cases, when I'm learning dungeons for the first time or sort of stumbling my way through them, when it comes to, like, a new expansion coming out, I use meters to be able to check to see what was doing the most damage to me, what I was taking a hit from, if I didn't understand what was happening, right? But I didn't see a giant fireball fly into my character and take it out. I just sort of popped when what happened. It might have been a line of sight, where I was supposed to line of sight an ability, I didn't know. But being able to identify what those spells and abilities are is super helpful. So that's another place where that kicks in as well. Updated nameplates. The nameplates for non-targeted enemies are now darker, and they added new nameplate style called Health Focus. It's similar to the modern style, but places text above the health bar rather than inside of it. That's something you're doing. And the biggest thing that I've seen feedback-wise from people online, as I mentioned at the top of this, is that health bars right now are cycling. And the best way to put that is, like, as the mobs run around, the health bars that are on the top of your sort of, like, list of health bars that are there start shifting and moving towards the bottom as those mobs get closer and farther from you. And so trying to keep track of, like, hey, a mob's casting, or a mob's doing something, or we were targeting this mob, becomes a lot more difficult to do when all the health bars are just constantly rotating and moving and morphing in their own sort of, like, weird kind of way. So it's much easier when you pull a group of mobs, a static amount of health bars appear, and they stay in that static position and don't really shift around very much. And a lot of customizations needed for that as well, with making them smaller, bigger, highlight certain ways. how to track debuffs on them, all that sort of stuff is important too. So they're working their way through it, and we'll see where that goes from there. As far as improvements made for the add-on interface, the abilities for add-ons to colorize text strings that contain secret values has been improved. Add-ons must now be marked by their authors as supporting 12.0.0 in order to be allowed to load into Midnight, to prevent players from their UIs breaking due to outdated add-ons. So they did make it so if you're trying to make add-ons on beta, you are not breaking UI by downloading beta add-ons and trying to use them on live. So that's one of those things. They made improvements to the secret-related Lua error message to make it easier for add-ons to diagnose the issues. And they made performance improvements to the recently updated abbreviated numbers API, which allowed add-ons to split up and format secret numbers. I think it's really important to make Lua error stuff easier to understand. It's interesting to me as someone who's used weak auras for a long time. There's like Bug Grabber and a bunch of other things that you can get where basically you can see the logs of what a Lua error is sort of spitting out when it comes to something being broken. And there's been many times where I've gone in and gone, okay, what is the string that's inside of this weak aura that is causing this issue that if I can remove or find another way to do, I can fix this Lua error that keeps popping up. And so the more they can sort of give players the tools they need to be able to see what's causing a performance issue on an add-on that they're using, the better as far as that goes. There was one that was part of the raid pack that people were putting together that was reducing people's frame rates by some extreme amount because of the amount of resources it was using. And people had no idea for like months until someone finally like deleted. They had to actually delete the weak aura from their weak auras list, and it like dramatically improved their game performance. So like that kind of stuff, you just it's hard to notice, and so it's easy to get stuff slowing down your computer without keeping track. So glad to see that. It'd be neat to see sort of like a bug grabber thing built into WoW for folks to be able to see that and have an easy to read way of being like, this weak aura is causing problems for you. You need to change something.
Yeah, right. Like it would be really nice if that was baseline, because you get that message, you'll get a pop-up if you're running a ton of Lua errors, but that's like a baseline thing, but it doesn't tell you anything else. It doesn't tell you like what the problem is. It just says, hey, why don't you shut off your add-ons, which isn't really a solution. And I think a lot of players are probably not aware of like Bug Grabber, Bug Sack, where it's like you can actually see what's causing the issue. Maybe it's just an add-on that isn't actually compatible with the current version of the game or something. So you just got to wait it out. And so you're just going to disable that add-on, and then you don't have to worry about it. Just some basic examples like that. Like, yeah, it would be great if they could include some more robust error messaging in the game baseline. But even if they don't, if you run add-ons, I would recommend using Bug Grabber and Bug Sack, at least for now, while we know they still work in War Within. So, that can save you some headache in terms of, system performance and everything like that. And yeah, I would love to see that some more robust error messaging with Lua stuff in the baseline game instead of just like, hey, why don't you turn off your add-ons?
Yeah, exactly. All right, there was a blog post that came out about dungeon testing, and that's currently up and live and running from November 18th until December 2nd. So if you're wanting to test dungeon stuff, obviously that's live. You can hop onto the endgame realm like we talked about earlier and test out Pitasaron, Sky Reach, Seat of the Triumvirate, and Algathar's Academy. They have been doing the tuning needed for these to become Mythic Plus dungeons. So all of these dungeons are receiving tweaks and tuning and changing to sort of make them fit more with the modern playstyle of the game that they're going for, with obviously no combat add-ons, et cetera, as well as the just Mythic Plus scaling system and how that works and whatnot. Because I can't remember. Pitasaron probably has never had an update like the update they're giving it right now. It is a massive rework of that place to get it functional for Mythic Plus and scaling Mythic Plus. So they're doing lots of things where like all creatures and encounter bosses have been fully reimagined in a modernized experience, including a complete pass on all creature spawning. And you're like, wow, okay, that means this is going to feel like a new dungeon. Yes, it will. We'll have to see what this actually looks like. The dungeon's captive soldiers are now directly tied into the main objective. Story scenes have been rebuilt to be shorter and meet modern standards while honoring the original story. So like less waiting around while mobs talk and do story stuff because they're modernizing it and making it shorter and more concise. Like, that's all changes happening in there. In Skyreach, we know that all creatures and boss encounters have been updated. The wind platform from Rokuron has been updated as well. It was the one thing we talked about a while back when we heard Skyreach was going to be part of this. Birds no longer deal damage to players. I don't know how you can do that in Skyreach. Most of the mobs are birds, but who knows? The wind current can now be disabled by channeling on the coalescing winds after crossing the platform. So if one person's really good at it and gets across it, then they can slow it down for everybody else. My presumption is they mean birds during the wind event no longer do damage, but I do think it's funny that the statement just says as a note, birds no longer deal damage to players.
All right. Yeah, I assume it's all the wind platform.
Yeah.
This means demon hunters. Demon hunters, go turn off the wind. Thanks.
Yeah.
I guess, yeah. Yeah, I mean, these are two pretty old dungeons. Skyreach is old, but I mean, Pit of Sauron is about to turn, 16 next month?
Something like that.
Came out in 2009. So, yeah, I mean, when I saw this on the list, I definitely groaned about Pit of Sauron, but it's like, I also knew, okay, they're going to totally redevelop it. Like, it has to be. And obviously that is what they're doing here. Skyreach, I think, was a pretty cool dungeon for what it was. The wind thing could be a real headache in Mythic Plus, but having a deal where it's just like one person needs to do it, or maybe two, or maybe it goes faster the more people that do it, the channel goes faster. We saw that in Dawn of the Infinite had a thing like that, where there was the maze you had to get through, and then you could channel on it so that people could use a portal, and the more people that got through the maze could then channel on the portal, open it faster. I think that model works fine in Mythic Plus. It preserves some of the identity of the dungeon without making it be a real headache and timer killer, right? Like time waster inside the dungeon. So I think that's cool. Like, you could have just totally shut it off, but I'm okay with them leaving it in there in just a way that, like, if you have somebody or a couple somebodies who are really skilled at it, then they can, it ends up being a big benefit for your team.
Yeah. We also saw some changes come in for Seed of the Triumvirate as well as Algathar's Academy. And I know you have opinions on Algathar's because you've probably run it a lot more times than I have.
Yeah, I mean, like, it seemed, first of all, Seed of the Triumvirate is the worst Keystone dungeon ever created and is going to need a lot of work to be suitable. Like, it was terrible in Legion to the point where, like, you just didn't do it. The system was new, so it wasn't the kind of thing where you have rating tied to stuff and you have these specific things that you're trying to do. So, okay, yeah, I got to get my plus 10 done for my teleport, and then I got to get a, plus 12 or plus 13 in time, so I get my rating target, so I get whatever reward I want. Legion didn't work like that. We didn't have this stuff. So it was just like, oh, your keys see the Triumvirate. What does anybody else have? Because we don't want to do this. So hopefully, I think they've gotten pretty good at these dungeon revamps. So I'm not going to carry my 2017, 2018 trauma forward into whatever this dungeon's going to be. It's going to be its own thing.
You have to remember, they're not trying to design a dungeon that people don't want to run. So, like, there's efforts being made to make people want to do this.
Yeah, I mean, like, Mythic Plus was kind of experimental back in Legion. It was a brand new idea. The dungeons were already sort of, I'm sure they had a ton of work done on the patch dungeons before, Mythic Plus really became a reality, and they saw how people played it and what that looked like in practice. Algathar was one of the easier, if not maybe the easiest dungeon in Dragonflight. I felt like it was always one I wanted to do. If it was on the table, it was like, all right, let's go do your Algathar, because that's a pretty good run. The changes that they've made so far are Croth, the big bird boss. The Deafening Screech no longer applies sonic vulnerability, that was a big part of the fight, was managing how many stacks of sonic vulnerability your party could have. So it seems like that won't be a factor. Like, you have to survive the Deafening Screech, but there's not this mini game of like, okay, at how many stacks are we then going to force the boss to change phases? And now Ruinous Winds comes in at specific health thresholds, so that it seems like less decision making on what you're doing with the boss. Like, you're fighting the boss and you're reacting to what it's doing, which could be good. I mean, Croth was not like a super complicated boss, but it could be pretty punishing as you started going to higher difficulties, especially because of the debuff. I feel like that was a huge. You had to approach it much differently when you got into the teens than you could do at lower ranks. And then the other change that they put in so far is Veximus no longer gains energy when an arcane orb reaches it to prevent unfair overlaps with Arcane Fissure. So this is kind of surprising to me. Like the arcane orbs, everybody wanted to soak an orb, or maybe you'd have somebody with some defensive soak a couple orbs or whatever. I'm wondering if it's just going to do like damage to players or something. Like maybe that becomes the big concern is, if it eats an orb, then it kills you or something. Because if it's not gaining energy from the orbs, then I don't know. Do you end up in a spot where like, we can ignore an orb or something? So there's going to have to be some other penalty in there somewhere, because in the Dragonflight thing, iteration of the dungeon, you really didn't want it gaining the energy. That was a huge deal. So it seems like they're taking a dungeon that I already felt like was pretty easy and potentially making it a bit easier on a couple of these bosses. So obviously we'll see how it all comes together, but it seems like the intent seems like reducing the amount of factors that players really have to account for, and like the boss is just going to fight you, and also potentially making it less punishing. And this depends on tuning, but making it less punishing if there's a mistake made with a mechanic or something like that.
Yeah. All right. The hot topic for this week is a post that came in from Kyvax talking about, well, as well as people getting their hands on it in beta itself, talking about the warband-wide outfit slots for Transmog. All right. So this is an interesting thing because a lot of people have different opinions on this. I know Jason and I actually stand on different sides of this, which is an interesting topic for us to get into in the most friendly way possible, obviously. Jason was our correspondent in the field who went in there into beta and was able to do the testing himself. We know that outfit slots themselves to unlock the entire system is going to be just under 800,000 gold, and that is all of your outfit slots that you will gain. But he was also creating mogs to sort of see like, okay, if I'm mogging every single item that I own to create a set, how much on average does that cost? It's somewhere around 3,800 gold per full complete set, with the high end being about 4,100 and the low end being about 3,650. So it's one of those interesting, depending on what pieces you're transmogging, it's going to cost more. Obviously, if you're doing like a main hand offhand versus just doing a staff or things like that, that's going to factor in and change some of these prices a little bit. But in general, at most, you're looking at probably about 4,200 gold to be able to do a complete transmog set. So not only are you paying 800,000 gold to unlock the entirety of the system, which is the way I'll talk about it, you're also then going to have to spend 4,100 gold for every single one of those slots. So that can be quite a large gold sink overall. Now, the system itself ramps. So right off the bat, everyone gets 2 free slots for their transmog sets. Just 2 of them right off the bat. A third one costs 100 gold. A fourth one costs 500 gold. The fifth is 1,000. The sixth is 5,000. The seventh is 10,000. The eighth is 15. Ninth is 20. 10th is 25,000. All right. The total amount of slots that you get, I don't know, Jason, if you end up counting this out, is it like...
It's 20.
It's 20
is
okay.
the last one you can buy.
And the last 3 each cost 100,000 apiece, with the last fourth costing 90. So as soon as we hit the 30,000 gold mark, they just start going up by 10,000 apiece until the final 3, where they cost 100,000 gold each. And so really, to unlock this system, that 800,000, more than half of that 800,000 is the last 5 slots. The last 5 slots are, I'm doing math in my head while we actually do this, which is always a dangerous thing to do, 470,000 gold. 470,000 gold for those last 5 slots, which means you're talking about spending 326,000 gold to get 15 slots. If you're looking at it that way, those last 5 are the super pricey ones. The last 5 cost as much as the first 15, if you're going to look at it that way. But yeah, on top of that, you're then spending 4,200 gold for those slots, which means it's an extra 50k. So if you wanted to fill out those, those first 10 slots, you're spending 50,000 gold to fill out those first 10 slots. If you're wanting to fill out, the first 15, you're going to be spending 75,000 gold to fill out those first 15. Like, that's going to be a thing. So just keep that in mind cost-wise as you're sort of putting together these slots. Now, the important things to note, and this is where it was an interesting conversation Jason and I got into pre-show, was this is a one-time thing. Similar to your bank or anything else, it's going to be warbound. It's not warbound on beta, but it's going to be warbound as an unlock, which means everyone on your account, when you spend 100 gold to get your third slot, all of your characters get their third slot. It's not per character. You don't have to choose a character and then buy out slots on that character. All characters get it. All right. So you're not, this isn't something that's like a continuous sync where you're like, dude, I have 50 characters on my account. It's going to cost me millions of gold to be able to have Transmog on the variety of characters that I have. So it's not in that situation. It's a one-time purchase, one-time thing. Now, Jason, you feel as though there's an extra 0 on all of this.
Yeah. I think these costs are really high. And I mean, the new system is cool. Like, I really like the new UI. I like how flexible it is. The situational mog seems really cool. And also, that goes hand in hand with the fact that having a bunch of slots becomes more important because of the situational mog, right? You're probably going to want more slots than maybe you use right now, especially if you're not like much of a transmogger. But because of situational stuff and because of housing, you may want a housing set and I'm in the city set and I'm in a dungeon set or whatever, right? So you may want to use, like, now that the system's becoming more robust, it's becoming more modernized. Even if you don't use it a lot right now, you may want to use it more in Midnight and beyond. I mean, Transmog's not cheap now. As we've kind of inflated item level and all this stuff, like, I have definitely gotten sticker shock sometimes when, okay, I completed my new season set, I want to put it on. Yikes, that's a pretty big Transmog bill for a one-time thing, right? Like, if
Sure.
I change a piece, I get new gloves or something. Now I got to pay more gold to change them. This is it's very front-loaded in terms of the gold cost. It's like you buy into this all up front, and then over time it should represent like actually a gold savings if they don't make significant changes to the system for a while, which I don't suspect that they will. Because now when you get a new helmet, well, it now automatically moves to your active transmog or whatever transmog is appropriate for the situation that you've determined, right? It's not the thing like, oh, I pulled a new helmet out of this dungeon, I'm going to put it on, and now I got to pay gold to mog it. You already paid the gold to mog it as much as you want at that point to one of your existing outfits. So like all of that is very good. But and also like some of this was very controversial early in the week because of the state of beta, and the warband functionality just isn't there. So players logged in and were like, I don't have 800K to spend on all of my characters to unlock all of these slots. But they cleared that up like decently quickly, and obviously some of this stuff is fluid. I feel like the first couple sets are good. Up to about 5K to unlock an outfit that seems okay, and then the ramping to me gets really to be a lot. I guess some napkin math would suggest it's like 880,000 gold total if you want to buy your 20th slot, right?
Yeah.
So you get your 2 free ones, you buy 18, and then you assign a 4K-ish gold outfit to each of those slots, which is, I feel like that's a hefty amount of money for gold, I should say. It's not money. It's let me say what I mean.
Yes.
Because we're
talking
about in-game currencies and cash conversions and all that. This is gold. It's all in-game gold. Yeah, I feel like it's pretty hefty. Like, you do need to have gold sinks in the game, right? If everything's going to give you gold, and you're going to get gold from every activity you do, there needs to be reasons for you to spend it and things to spend it on, and some kind of considerations, right? You're spending your gold on this and not that, right? It's part of the mechanics of the game. I feel like you could probably have the costs here and still have the effect come across. Also, I feel like a lot of players will probably be able to be perfectly happy with 5 or 6 slots and not 20. But then again, now I haven't actually purchased my all my bank tabs for the way the bank works now, because it's just I don't need them. I don't have anything to put in it. Yeah. So it's like that's just gold that I'm just flushing down the toilet for now, because I don't feel like they're needed in my warband bank, and maybe someday they will be. I do feel like it's going to be sticker shock for some players, though, and also, for your collectors and your players who maybe engage with the game in more of a customization, role-playing type of stuff. They might not have the kind of gold lying around. Like the players who are going to use the system the most might not be able to afford it, right? I feel like you can have that kind of barrier of this is like an aspirational unlock. This is a thing you want to work on over the course of time without coming in at almost a mil, right? Like you could probably have this stuff in a lot of these cases and get the same effect. It's funny because the people with the most gold will probably care the least about even buying this stuff. They might not even, a lot of them might not even do it, right? Because a lot of times it's very, it's very dedicated players to end game stuff that end up with a ton of gold because they're playing all the time, or like they're selling runs or whatever. And it's like, they're not in it for the MOG. So to me, that's kind of a weird problem. I would like to see some tuning come in on these numbers before they go final and before the system goes out. Because I feel like that's just not serving the transmog community, really. That's the main thing that I think of when I see the price tags on these. Sure.
And I hear you. And I want to specify that I don't think there's, in my opinion, like I don't fall on one side of the fence or the other when it comes to like, if they reduce these prices, that's great. I'm happy they reduce the prices. If they don't reduce the prices, I am actually kind of accepting of that, because I feel like there are certain objectives that drive gameplay inside of World of Warcraft. And they're not limiting this by an extreme amount. I probably have 5 sets right now that I switch between of gear, something like that. And I don't switch that often. Some of them are seasonal as far as that goes. They're putting enough of these sets in that you can have like seasonal plus cozy plus 1 for every expansion that's ever come out. Like that's literally what we're looking at as far as the amount of spaces and slots that they're giving people. So I feel very much like if I'm in a situation where I have bought, let's say, up to the 25,000 mark, and the next one's going to cost me 30, and I start looking at that and being like, I don't know if I really need a 30,000 slot, but you know what, if it happens, that's fine. And I would enjoy having objectives. So it's a similar thing with the bank. Right now, like I have several million gold on my character, and I haven't bought all the bank slots, and I haven't bought them all because, you know, I like Jason, I'm going, that's something where I might want that gold for something else. Maybe the next Brutosaur comes out or whatever it is, where I'm super excited about. By the way, the store Brutosaur is back, and that's a whole other thing. But it's one of those things where, you know, maybe I want to put that gold towards something else. There's some other objective or goal or mount or whatever it is I want to buy that I want to put that gold towards. And so I like having objectives. When BFA, when the first Brutosaur came out and it was 5 million gold, and it was a guaranteed mount, and it had an auction house on it, and it was wild and crazy as a thing, I set the objective for that expansion as trying to earn enough gold to be able to do that. And it changed the way I approached the game, because I really started experimenting and pushing myself into areas of gameplay I did not normally push myself into, because that's where I could make more gold. And whether that was transmog farming and doing more auction house work, or that was, you know, doing mercenary work for gold, where I'm, you know, doing carries through raids or dungeons, whatever that was, that became a different way of me exploring and experiencing the game. And that came out of having a gold objective towards something. So what I'm hopeful for is that the system itself, as it is right now, I don't think earning 50k inside World of Warcraft is a really hard thing to do. And for 50k, you're getting yourself like the first 8 slots on this thing pretty easily. And I feel like that's a lot of transmog space. I feel like 8 slots is a lot of transmog space. And if you want to get a 9th slot, then maybe that becomes a gold objective, where you're starting to be like, okay, well, you know what, every week I'll do these 3 raids to try and get some of the pieces that people really want that I can sell in the auction house, or that I can, maybe you start dipping into, hey, me and my 4 buddies are going to start trying to do organized sales for gold, where we're saying, hey, yeah, like, if you want to pay us 150,000 gold, we will bring you into a Mythic plus 10 and we'll get you your portal. Like, whatever that is, right? And that starts getting a little bit of gold income happening inside the system, because there's very few people who make millions and millions of gold doing one specific thing, right? They make gold doing a variety of things inside World of Warcraft, and that to me is a way of diversifying and pushing diversity of play and setting those objectives. Like, for me, having a goal inside BFA of, hey, I want to make this much gold, just meant that I was playing World of Warcraft more. It meant that I was engaging in the game in different ways, and that was kind of a neat thing to sort of experience and branch out there and see what that was like. And I think that's a really neat aspect to this. So part of me like recognizes that, sure, like there's a costing associated with this, but it is a one-time purchase that is account wide. And once you've done it, like, it's done and the system's done and unlocked, and it is what it is. And I sort of look at the bank system as a similar way. And, I haven't purchased all those slots yet. And, is it on my bucket list of things? Not even. It's not even there. Like, I don't have a desperate need to do that at the moment with the way they've done the war bank and everything else. I don't have a desperate need to, have that additional space and unlocks and everything like that. And what the big question for me now, which is something we'll have to wait and see and find out, is whether or not the cost to create a transmog set is still waived during Trial of Style. Because if it is, Trial of Style becomes a big way to save a lot of gold. I'm just saying, when that thing rolls around, you have, 9 or 10 or 12 or 15 or whatever it is slots. Maybe you unlocked all of them. You have 20 slots unlocked. You've only made 2 or 3 transmogs that you use. You suddenly are like, all right, here's a reason for me to go to Trial of Style and make like 18 more transmogs sets that are now all saved in here. And I just saved myself, 60,000 gold by doing that now. And that would be wild if they kept it in and kept it the way it was, which I hope they do, because that'd be really cool if they did that.
Yeah, that becomes a whole other thing for Trial of Style. I think, like, to piggyback off of what your thought on this was, sure. Like the example with the Brutosaur, this is like better than that, because as far as we know, like, this will be in the game for years to come, yeah. Right? So the Brutosaur, we knew there was like a hard time limit on it, and if you didn't have it by this point in time, like, you weren't gonna be able to easily get it. Like, yeah. It would come back in some fashion, but it wasn't going to be on a vendor for this set amount of gold. And so now, it appears on the black market auction house, and it's like gold cap every time and whatever. It's not going to happen in this situation, right? Like, if anything, they'll only reduce costs as the system is live. They'll only make it more accessible, or gold inflation will just naturally occur, and it will be easier to get the gold that you need to unlock the entire system. And they are unlikely to, reverse course on this in terms of design anytime soon. I mean, Transmog's been in since 2011, something like that, 2012 maybe. And, it was the way it was for 13 years, basically. There weren't any huge updates to the system. There was some quality of life. They added the set UI, which made it easier to pick a whole set out and just apply it. They loosened some restrictions on what could be transmogged and when and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. But for the most part, it was the same system. So I think, like, once this rolls in, you can have some confidence as a buyer that they're not going to pull the rug out from under you. They're not going to reverse course in the system or do something wildly different with it in the near term, where now you just wasted as much as like almost 900K, right? So yeah, if it's important to you to have this all unlocked and you need to save gold or make gold for it, like, you can do that at your own pace, basically, because it shouldn't, the goalpost shouldn't move on you. You should have time to do it. So that part is pretty good.
Yeah.
And I do wonder, like, it might be kind of obnoxious when you're in the middle of a new patch, right? And a bunch of new appearances come out, new sets come out, you're completing sets, and like, now you got to make some choices on, okay, which ones am I going to use? Am I going to replace an existing outfit from last season's tier set with this season's? or am I going to buy a new slot and then I'm going to have them set up so I can move back and forth between them? Those are decisions that are going to have increasingly high gold costs as you go through. So it'll be a thing to figure out with how you want to use your resources. Also, I think I'm not sure how this is going to work when it rolls over to live, but something to maybe keep in mind. I did a character copy onto the beta realm, and so my account data came over and everything. I had no save transmog anything. Like, you can't go back to the old stuff. So you may, in prepping for pre-patch this winter, you may want to just like make a note of what sets you have and what items you put together with them, because you may just straight up lose that stuff when this patch rolls in and transmog just changes that day, that could be potentially pretty frustrating. So just kind of thinking ahead, you might want to have just a record of like, okay, I used these items in conjunction with this armor set or whatever. This is how I did this one, because you will probably have to rebuild it all once the new transmog comes in. So I don't know. We'll see what they do. I think the initial reaction was extremely negative to the costs on beta. And part of it was immediately like assuaged, right, when they said, oh no, the warband thing is planned, it just doesn't work right now. Because that would have been a huge problem if you had to buy these unlocks on every single character, especially in a warband world, right? This was supposed to be the thing we're moving away from. So that's just a tech limitation, fine. I'll be interested to see, if they end up moving on any of these costs as we go through beta, and if they do reduce this stuff. I don't think you go up from here. That's probably not on the table, right? Like, you kind of set them in here with the expectation that maybe you launch with this, or you see what players feel about it. You probably don't move the prices up. So it'll be interesting to see how the conversation kind of unfolds and what the devs end up doing, if they end up budging on any of this stuff. I really think it would be a good idea. You could still make it a gold sink, even bringing these prices down, because you have so much ability to experiment with the system now because of situations and because of housing, right? Like, you have so many more elements that players might want to hook transmog into. And yeah, I don't know. It's funny because when they initially sort of announced Midnight, the kind of like bullet point pitch that we got was like, transmog was going to be free.
Yes.
Which it kind of is, in a very, once you pay all the money, then it's free. Right? The gold, you pay all the gold, there's no money.
Well, it's still and it's one of those situations where, yes, like once you've unlocked those slots and you've assigned those particular transmog sets, you can switch between them for free. However, assigning those things actually also costs gold. So I'm with you. I think the other important thing for people to keep in mind here is the old way of doing transmog isn't going away. Now, obviously, we'd recommend buying the first 6 slots because you get the first 2 for free, and then you're essentially spending less than 7,000 gold to get an additional 4 slots of transmog space before you start just doing the traditional way of doing transmog of spending, 4,000 gold, whatever it is, on doing a transmog set the way you normally do. But you don't have to buy slots every time you transmog. You can essentially go, hey, I'm going to have my first 6 slots. That's going to have my raid set. It's going to have my cozy set. It's going to have my holiday set that I want, and maybe a couple others. And then you just have one optional slot. Maybe your 6th slot is just like, hey, this is my messing around slot, and so I'm going to make other transmog sets and dump them in here. And just, bear in mind in your head of like, okay, well, once I've done that 3 times that slot, I've now paid more than just buying a 7th slot in doing transmog, right? Just FYI. But in general, like that old system is going away. If you're someone who currently uses the transmog system to change a whole bunch, this is a quality of life improvement because you'll just buy up, a bunch of slots and you'll be fine with that. But you can still just do it the old way, as opposed to being like, I need to get 50,000 gold to buy this slot to be able to. That's crazy. It's like, well, you don't have to. You could just transmog for 4,000 gold and do whatever you want over and over and over again and be transmogging every week if you wanted to. Just bear in mind that after 12 weeks you've essentially purchased that one slot, but you've probably gotten a lot more variety out of doing it the old way than you did out of the new way. So just keep that in mind too when it comes to the system. But yeah, we'd recommend get the first 6, right? The first 6 is less than 7,000 gold. Like, just get the first 6. I think everyone can pretty much do that, and then you'll be able to see where you're at from there.
Yeah, if these prices stay the same, I think it would be just a straight up mistake to not do those first, 4 purchases at least, right? And then you get the 2 free, so then you have 6 slots total.
Yeah.
And then even at the 5K unlock, that's where it starts to kind of ramp up, But yeah, like from what I was looking at, yeah, like you said, it's like 4K to do a full set mog over top of what I was wearing. And that will probably go up as we actually get midnight gear, right? And as you get to like max level and you get max level gear, the individual mog cost will probably increase over time. So yeah, if you change your mog a lot, if that's just kind of your preference and that's how you play the game, then you absolutely are going to want to buy, outfit slots for whatever outfits you're mogging into, because even at like the higher end costs, if you're changing a lot, I mean, that adds up, So having the ability to just swap on the fly will save you a ton of gold in the long run, especially over the course of the game's future, right? Like I said, I'm expecting the system to remain this way for a very long time. Like a decade at least before they probably do anything significant to it. So yeah, I feel like if you're thinking about this and going, I'm just not going to bother, it seems like a waste of money to unlock the slots. I only have 2 sets I like anyway, so I'll just change back and forth between them. Okay, you can use your 2 free slots, but if you use any more than that, then you're kind of just, at a certain point, you're just wasting money every time you mog, right? Yeah. If you don't have those extra slots purchased.
Yeah.
Gold. You're wasting gold. I keep saying money. It's not. It's just a gold cost. So true. I guess you could buy WoW tokens if you're really into mog and you really.
Hey man, look, if you
really need to make it happen,
you can. You could unlock this whole system for less than 3 tokens, right? At the moment.
That's true.
Like right now, if you wanted to just buy 3 WoW tokens, you could have every transmog slot unlocked and filled. Like you could actually put mogs into all of them if you just bought 3 tokens. So like, if you are wanting to use money, it is an option. It's one of those things. All right. With that, I want to take a moment to thank our patrons. They contribute a ton to our show and help us to improve on the content we create. Today, I want to give a special shout out to Arajian, Anthony, Bradley, Chris, Bruce, James, Garrett, Kapowie, and Shorel. Thank you so much for all that you give. And thank you to all of our patrons. I want to highlight that we're coming up on holidays. We're coming up on the time of year that's very expensive for a lot of people. A lot of businesses are not doing fantastic with a lot of the social situations happening around the world. We recognize that, and we appreciate whatever it is you're willing to give or have given in the past to support the show. We want to be sure you guys are doing all right too. So, big thank you to you. And if you're trying to find our Patreon, you can go to patreon.com/thestartingzone. We appreciate, whoever can jump in there and support. No new patrons this week, but just a special thank you to all our patrons, and recognizing this time of year can be a little tough financially. So we appreciate you very much. Not telling you to give us more. I'm just saying, like, for you guys, it's tough financially. So we appreciate whatever you can do,
Absolutely. I mean, it means a lot, anybody who chooses to spend some of their hard-earned money to support what we do here. It's huge. And, we say it every week, but it really does help keep the show on track, keep schedules, locked in, keeps the show coming out on a regular basis, even if we get a flex, which we have had to do a lot recently. So yeah, I mean, the patrons help make that happen. And we can't overstate how much we appreciate the support over the many years that we've been doing this. So thank you all. And if you like today's episode, thank a patron.
Yeah. If another great way to support the show is going over to your iTunes, your Apple Podcasts, your Spotify's, leave us those 5-star reviews. They help shoot us up the charts and more people find the show. And we also enjoy reading them when we get the chance to. That's going to wrap up episode 711 of The Starting Zone. If you want to check out show notes for this episode or leave us a comment on the show, you can head on over to thestartingzone.com, the official website for the Starting Zone podcast. If you want to contact us and leave your feedback or ask a question, you can email us at thestartingzone@gmail.com or reach out to us on Twitter at The Starting Zone, or on Blue Sky at thestartingzone.bsky.social, or on Discord by going to startingzone.com/Discord. And we have been doing some giveaway stuff on the socials, so be sure you're following those. We appreciate not only the numbers, because people care about numbers of followers and things like that, but also it just means you're in touch when the giveaway stuff happens and whatnot. So you're not missing out on anything like that. Jason, where can folks find you on the internet?
You can find me on socials, over on Twitter at Shieldwald, or on Blue Sky at jlucas.bsky.social. I mostly post stuff to Blue Sky, but I check both sites regularly, so come say hi in either place. You can check out video channels at twitch.tv/Shieldwald and youtube.com/Shieldwald. Streams have been quiet lately. Obviously, I was not even around this past week, but I haven't been streaming much, but I might be getting back into it. Maybe we'll just fire some up and do some .7 stuff when it comes up or whatever. So, yeah, check out the video channels as well. And also, before we sign off, I just wanted to say we got a follow-up email from Rob, who wrote in a couple weeks ago about an add-on that he was working on and the frustrations that he was having with these changes. And it was really cool to hear. We'll get it more into the email maybe on a future show, but I just wanted to we didn't write you back or anything, Rob. I just wanted to acknowledge we did get your email and it was cool to read. So thanks for checking it. Yeah,
sent along some pictures, the progress of the add-on that he's building. It's really neat. So I'm glad that you wrote in, and I mentioned this to Jason pre-show. I was like, I'm really appreciative that in your email you feel as though we represented what you were trying to convey well. So I'm glad that was done. So I appreciate that. And yeah, we'll dive into that a little bit later on with some more add-on discussion on what's going on with that. But we took a little small break from add-on stuff this week and talked a little bit more about Transmog. If you're trying to find me, you can find me on Blue Sky at spencerhd.bsky.social, on Twitter at Spencer_Downey, over on Twitch at twitch.tv/SpencerHD, and on YouTube at youtube.com/@symbol Spencer HD. So just at Spencer HD. And with that, for Jason and myself, we want to say thanks for listening, and jobs done.